All right, welcome to the Explainer. So, I want you to imagine it's early 2026, and the Strait of Hormuz, literally the single most critical energy choke point on the entire planet, is completely shut down. We're not just talking about a political headache here or some minor glitch in the system. This is a mega engineering crisis of a scale we've never seen before. Today, we're going to dive right in and break down exactly how the global energy system got pushed right to the edge, and we'll look at the massive multi-billion-dollar infrastructure projects that are being proposed to save it.
To really understand the panic, you have to look at the sheer, desperate dependency the world's largest economies have on this one tiny, narrow waterway. I mean, think about this for a second. We are talking about nearly 50% of China's entire oil supply, roughly 70% of South Korea's, and an absolutely staggering 100% of Japan's oil, all flowing right through that one strait. So when that passage gets blocked, millions of barrels are just trapped. The economic lifeblood of Asia is totally cut off, and that threatens to bring global supply chains and the everyday products you and I rely on to a grinding, catastrophic halt.
Here's the grim reality we're dealing with. Since early 2026, this passage has been under the most severe disruption in its history. And honestly, the world was caught completely flat-footed. The brutal truth is that if you take every single pipeline humanity has ever built to bypass this strait, it covers barely a quarter of the normal flow. Just a drop in the bucket. Railways? They absolutely cannot handle crude oil at this sheer volume. And those massive canals that could theoretically replace the strait? Yeah, they're still just sketches on a drawing board. The world needs a massive bypass, and we need it yesterday. Okay, so the big question is, where do we even put a bypass like this? Because geography dictates absolutely everything here. Major producers like Kuwait, Iraq, and Qatar, they are completely Gulf-locked, zero direct access to the Indian Ocean. What about Saudi Arabia? Well, their nearest coastline is nearly 750 miles away from their Gulf oil fields, which makes building a bypass there a monumentally huge headache. But then you have the United Arab Emirates. They possess what is basically a geographic cheat code. They've got this incredible dual coastline advantage. There are just 72 miles of land separating Port Khalid on the Persian Gulf and the Port of Fujairah right on the Indian Ocean. It's the ultimate global shortcut. But, nature doesn't exactly make it easy on us. Standing right smack in the middle of that 72-mile shortcut is our main villain for this project, the Hajar Mountains. We're talking about a towering, totally unforgiving wall of stone with peaks shooting up over 5,900 feet. And this isn't just packed dirt, guys. It is incredibly dense rock, wildly uneven formations, and a landscape that is literally riddled with geological fault lines. It's a massive natural barricade standing right in the way of our emergency energy highway. But hey, now for the good news. The reason engineers know we can actually pull this off is because this mountain bypass isn't just some sci-fi pipe dream. The proof of concept is actually up and running right now. The Abu Dhabi Crude Oil Pipeline, or ADCOP for short, was completed way back in 2012, so we've actually known for over a decade that this can be done. Today, it's pushing up to 1.8 million barrels of oil per day right over those mountains, securely delivering it to the massive Fujairah port completely safe and out of reach of the blocked strait. It proves, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we can conquer the Hajar Mountains. Right, so if the engineering actually works, what does it cost to replace the entire Strait of Hormuz? Well, let's break it down. Just one single 48-inch pipeline cutting directly across that 116-kilometer corridor can move about 2 million barrels of oil a day. The price tag for just that one line? A mind-boggling $4 to $6 billion. And because carving a route through that dense, unstable mountain rock is so incredibly tough, that single pipeline alone takes roughly 4 to 6 years to finish. But let's be real, one pipeline isn't going to solve a global meltdown. You add a second one, and sure, you double your capacity to 4 million barrels a day, bringing the cost up to around $10 billion. But if we want complete 100% replacement of the Strait of Hormuz, we need to build 10 of these parallel pipelines. That 10-line network delivers a massive 20 million barrels per day, totally bypassing the strait. But the price tag for the whole shebang rockets up to between $40 and $60 billion. We are talking about laying down an industrial mega highway of epic proportions. And building this highway? It is an absolute beast that will test the absolute limits of modern engineering. Because remember, crude oil definitely does not naturally flow uphill. To push a literal ocean of oil over a 5,900-foot mountain range, this 10-pipeline system is going to need more than 20 major industrial-scale pumping stations. And then you have to fight the environment itself.
Ground temperatures in the UAE regularly hit 122 degrees Fahrenheit. So essentially, you're trying to air condition a 116-kilometer steel tube inside Mother Nature's oven. Steel expands in extreme heat and crude oil breaks down. So the system demands massive thermal management, plus continuous, full-length fiber optic cables tracking leaks and temperatures in real time.
Now, what if we just didn't want to build a massive web of pipes? What's the ultimate jaw-dropping alternative here? Well, it's an inland maritime canal. Basically, we carve a brand new Gulf equivalent to the Suez Canal straight through the mountains. Imagine excavating a massive trench up to 1,000 feet wide and 82 feet deep, literally large enough to handle those massive, very large crude carrier ships going in both directions. The cost to blast and move roughly 4 billion cubic yards of mountain rock? Yeah, you're looking at north of a cool $100 billion. To truly wrap our heads around how massive that excavation is, let's look at history. The 45-mile expansion of the Suez Canal back in 2015, that took just 1 year. The super complex lock expansion of the Panama Canal took 9. But carving a mega canal through the dense, unforgiving rock of the Hajar Mountains, even if we push as fast as humanly possible, we are looking at a 10 to 15-year timeline. It puts it right up there among the absolute largest civil engineering undertakings in human history. All right, let's geek out for a second and put these two head-to-head. In the left corner, the 10 pipeline system, $60 billion max, taking 10 to 12 years to fully finish. In the right corner, the mega canal, over $100 billion, taking 10 to 15 years. But here is the pipeline's absolute trump card. A canal is totally all or nothing. You can't sail a ship through a ditch that's only 90% dug, right? But pipelines are phase-it. The very second that first pipeline is hooked up, it instantly starts delivering 2 million barrels a day. You get real usable capacity flowing while you're still building out the rest of the system. But guys, time for a reality check. Whatever we end up building, whether it's the pipelines or a mega canal, instantly becomes the single most critical piece of energy infrastructure on Earth. And that makes it the biggest target. As we saw with the 2019 Abu strike in Saudi Arabia and the March 2026 drone strikes on Fujairah's terminal, these bypass routes are literally the front lines. One successful strike doesn't just put a hole in a pipe, it sends an immediate shockwave through the global economy, sending gas prices through the roof and halting manufacturing worldwide. The threat matrix today is just incredibly complex. We're dealing with everything from cyber attacks shutting down digital valves to coordinated drone swarms, proxy groups, and even direct missile strikes. So building the corridor and defending the corridor, they are exactly the same project. You absolutely cannot have one without the other. This requires a strict 4-layer defense strategy. Step 1, you need active missile defense systems blanketing the entire route. Step 2, burying and hardening the pipes through the most exposed, vulnerable mountain stretches. Step 3, redundant pumping stations, so if one node gets hit, the whole 10-line system doesn't just shut down. And Step 4, sustained heavy naval protection patrolling around those key entry and exit ports. And honestly, defending an energy highway of this magnitude, that is not something one single country can or even should do alone. Because the entire global economy relies on it, it demands a massive global coalition. Back in April 2026, the Atlantic Council pointed this out with their Operation Overflow proposal. It calls for a vital, unified coalition including the US, China, Japan, and India to fast-track this bypass and mutually defend it. This isn't just pouring concrete, it's a global military imperative that actually turns a regional flashpoint into a shared defense priority. So there you have it, the math is done and the engineering template is completely proven. Every single year we don't have this infrastructure in the ground, the global supply chain is basically gambling its entire future on 21 miles of highly contested water staying open. The economic case is already settled. So I want to leave you with this one thought. If you held the fate of the global economy in your hands, and you knew all the costs, the threats, and the massive timelines, 10 pipelines or 1 mega canal, which one are you building? Let that sink in. Thanks so much for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next Explainer.